The iOS Dev Center is loaded with resources. Once you've registered as an Apple developer, you can go right to the iOS Dev Center by pointing your browser at developer.apple.com/devcenter/iOS. It's important to know that you are not alone in creating great iPhone or iPad apps. There's a heap of information squirreled away in various corners of the iOS Dev Center. For example, the Getting Started videos and the Getting Started documents are an introduction to the materials in the iOS reference library. Although they are light on content, they do get you started learning the fundamental concepts and best practices. The iOS reference library includes all the documentation you could ever want for developing for the iPhone and iPad. Most of the stuff is really useful only after you started coding and you know what to look for. However, as you can see, it is chock full of information to get you started. Many of the examples that I've talked about in other videos come from the sample code library. Most good developers look over sample apps before they start building their own. You can take something that closely approximates what it is you want to do and then modify it until it does exactly what you want it to do. All of the sample code runs in the iOS SDK's Integrated Development Environment, Xcode. The iOS SDK includes the following tools. Frameworks make it easy for you to develop apps for the iPhone as well as for the Mac, the iPad, and the iPod Touch because they all use the same frameworks. This gives all of these apps the same core architecture. The frameworks provide fundamental code for building your iPhone or iPad app. It specifies the required application behavior, and it offers classes for Windows and all sorts of views. The frameworks also provide standard interfaces to core location data, the user's contacts and photo library, the accelerometer data, and even the iPhone and iPad built-in camera. You incorporate these frameworks into your app and then add your application-specific behavior. The SDK also includes the Xcode Integrated Development Environment. Here is where you design the interface and write the code. You also use Xcode to debug your code. The SDK includes the iOS simulator for the iPhone and iPad so that you can test your app on your computer. And it also includes the Instruments app for measuring your app's performance when running on an iPhone or iPad. One thing you should know about the simulator is that it doesn't emulate real-life iPhone or iPad characteristics, such as the CPU speed or memory usage. If you want to understand how your app performs on the iPhone or iPad from a user's perspective, you have to use the actual iPhone with Instruments. The tools in the SDK support a development process that most people find comfortable. They allow you to rapidly get a user interface up and running to see what it actually looks like. You can add code a little at a time and then run the app after each new addition to see how it works. Generally speaking, this is the development sequence. You start with Xcode. Usually you start with a template, which offers quite a bit of code already working and ready to present views for you. Next, you design and create the user interface. The interface builder in Xcode offers graphic design tools you can use to create your app's user interface, and it saves a great deal of time and effort. It also reduces the amount of code you would have to write because it creates resource files that your app can then upload automatically. Next, you write and edit the code. The Xcode has a text editor that provides many features to help you write code. It's a very intelligent editor that can detect syntax errors as you type. The fourth step is to build, which includes compiling the code, and then run the app on the simulator. You would also build and run the app on the iPhone or iPad after it has been tested. But for now, step 4 would be using the simulator. Step 5 would be to debug the app and to go back to step 3 and write and edit code again to make sure that the app works. And step 6 is the same. You'd measure the app's performance and then go back to step 3 and continue to write and edit code to improve it. And this is a cycle that's iterative and keeps going and going and going until you've got it done, until you've got it right.